responding to the media's influence on this whole process, the mandated reporting laws, and Joe Paterno's relationship with Jerry Sandusky. The media has had a significant influence on Joe Paterno's firing, and rightfully so. Sexual abuse, especially of children who are defenseless, should never be ignored and put on the back burner of the priorities list. Paterno has won hundreds of football games, and the media has been there from the beginning to the end of this legacy. The true heartfelt devotion of Joe Paterno creates a soft spot for fans and media members all across the world. The media swarmed Penn State and created an atmosphere around Joe Paterno that was like any other that has ever been experienced. In an article in the News Tribune titled "Media Chose the Wrong Penn State Story" by O'Neill in 2011, stated, "Joe Paterno and others could have done more. If Jerry Sandusky was at a smaller university that was not as prestigious as Penn State, his crimes on 8 victims still would have been released and still gotten as much attention. These children's lives are still of great importance. This is not a normal crime. The media is going to be drawn towards something of this measure, regardless of whoever the head coach might be. This is sexual child abuse conducted while on Penn State's campus and while under the supervision of the head coach, which was Joe Paterno. He assumes full responsibility for every coach's actions, no matter if they were good friends or not." Reporting laws. The mandated reporting laws are ultimately proving Joe Paterno guilty. According to Child Welfare 2010, the standards for making a report clearly states that a report must be made when the reporter, in his or her official capacity, suspects or has reasons to believe that a child has been abused or neglected. Another standard frequently used is when the reporter has knowledge of or observes a child being subjected to conditions that would reasonably result in harm to the child. Although there are no claims that Paterno did pass on the known information to higher authorities, he did not take the necessary actions at that specific time. No one really knows whom the information was passed on to and how much this information was really released. The mandated reporting laws have depth and clear explanation. According to the PAcode.com, the general rule for reporting abuse of any kind is that the person in charge of the designated agent, which in this case would be Paterno, shall assume a full responsibility and have the legal obligation to report or cause a report to be made. Oral reports about abuse, such as the one given to Paterno from a query, are to be immediately reported through the telephone to Childline, which is a toll-free telephone system for receiving reports of suspected child abuse, referring reports for investigation, and maintaining the reports in the appropriate file. There is no indication that Paterno called this abuse hotline or any other police officials. Over the course of 32 years that Sandusky worked at Penn State, there was no file of any reports on Sandusky. Paterno failed to make any report about sexual abuse and is solely responsible for making sure authorities such as the police were aware of Sandusky's abuse upon young male victims. Paterno's relationship with Sandusky. Attorney General Report 2011 stated that Sandusky was employed by Penn State for 23 years as the defensive coordinator of its Division I collegiate football program. Sandusky played football for 4 years at Penn State and coached a total of 32 years under Joe Paterno. In his time at Penn State, Joe Paterno was the head coach for 46 years and accumulated a total of 409 wins, including 2 national championships and 5 undefeated seasons, as well as the most victories by any Division I football coach. Penn State has had a reputation of being loyal to the people that created and were the forefathers of the Division I football powerhouse. Joe Paterno and Jerry Sandusky have worked together at Penn State for 32 years, winning and establishing a reputation that is recognized throughout all of college football. There are not many coaching staffs that have been together for a longer period of time than Paterno and Sandusky were. They established a relationship and a bond that most coaches will never have because most coaches are not around as long as they were, especially at one school. They were best friends, and as far as I know, best friends do not tell on one another no matter how hard of a bind someone might be in. Mike McCreary should be fired along with Joe Paterno. In the article, Penn State Coach Speaks Out 2011, McCreary witnessed former Penn State football coach Jerry Sandusky sexually abusing a young boy in the shower at Penn State locker facility in 2002. The graduate assistant at the time, McCreary reportedly informed head coach Joe Paterno of the incident the next morning. McCreary had risen to be Penn State's wide receivers coach by the time the scandal broke earlier last month. He has been under fire for failing to act to protect a child allegedly being abused by Sandusky during the 2002 incident. He is also being criticized for not calling the police or notifying an authority figure at Penn State until the following day. The question is to be asked, why did McCreary not tell Joe Paterno right away, and why is Mike McCreary not fired yet? We believe that the question to both we believe that the answer to both of the questions is that
Thank you, Brett, for stating why the termination of Paterno was necessary. He ignored mandated reports and took friendship over morality. Next, Ben will be reinforcing that Joe Paterno should not have been fired.